Yes, brother, this is part 2 of the previous video I did on why 1 in 3 men are not having sex. So if you saw that video, you'll know that Stephen Bartlett and Professor Scott Galloway recently did a fascinating interview on all things to do with masculinity, sex, and the challenges of being a modern man. At the end of this video, I'm going to leave the link to that first one. So if you haven't watched it, no worries, you can go back and do that. So today I'm going to dive into the second half of their interview, and I'll be sharing 3 highlights that stood out to me. Now, first up, if you find this video helpful, then in the bottom right hand corner you'll see a red box that says subscribe. Click on that box so that you can get the latest videos and tools as I share them. Okay, so in the first half you'll remember that I spoke about 3 things. 1, that there was this economic pit that had been created for men. 2, there was this term that I'm coining as VIP mating that has been created through the surge in online dating, VIP mating. And then 3rd is the fact that there's this why bother mindset. So they were the 3 things that I shared. In the video, you'll see the link and it will go into detail around each of those 3 things. But from the second half of the video, here are the 3 most powerful things that stood out to me. Now, Professor Scott Galloway first shared what he believes the role of a modern man is. And there's a lot of videos going on about masculinity and the modern man and what it means to be a man at this point in time. So it was interesting to hear his perspective on it. And he believed there's 3 things, the 3 Ps. 1 is the protector. So being the protector of our family, but also not just of our family, standing for things and protecting things that are important to us. And an example that he gave is disadvantaged people in our community. So whether that's faith-based or whether that's to do with disabilities, whatever it may be, people that are disadvantaged or suppressed, standing for those people or standing for those causes that are important and being a protector in that sense. So that was the first P. The second P of being a modern man that he said was about being a provider. And this is not just financially, right? It goes beyond that, because it may be that actually our partner is the dominant financial provider. But being a provider in the sense of being there for my family, being there for my community, showing up and providing. So it's closely linked to protecting, but in a bit of a different way. And the 3rd one was procreator, right? So of course the first thing that we think here is sex, but also what Professor Galloway was talking about was romance, initiating, being the one to go first, making contact, taking on the leadership role. So they were the 3 Ps of what he believes being a modern man is all about. That was the first bit that stood out to me. Second bit is they spoke about something called an X factor. What is our X factor? And this directly relates to online dating. So he was saying that you have the top 10% of people in online dating that are blessed with good looks or have done well for themselves financially, and they really have, when it comes to online, the pick of anyone they want. Pick of anyone they want. And let's say that represents 10% of people. It's probably less than that, but let's go with 10%. And then you have 90% of us that don't meet that criteria. So we haven't been blessed with like the most stunning Vogue magazine looks, or financially we're doing okay, or we're doing average, or perhaps even for some of us less than average. And what is our X factor? Because when we go into online dating, everyone's looking at that top 10%, and the 90% of us that are not in that camp just kind of get swiped past, and we struggle with things like meeting people, arranging meets, engaging with people on online dating. So what do? Well, they were talking about how our X factor is in person, things that are not possible to see through online dating. So things, for example, like how we talk, how engaging we are, what our interests are, the energy that we have when we walk into a room or when we make eye contact with someone. These things cannot be seen through online dating. They cannot be seen through a digital profile. They are only things that can be experienced person to person in real life. So the point they were making is our X factor for 90% of us as men is experienced when we're in person with someone. And so the third point links directly to that. It's to get out there, and this of course applies to you if you're single or if you're in the dating arena, to get into the places where it's possible to meet those people. Ask yourself, the places that I'm spending time, so whether that is at the gym or whether it is at shopping, or I'm just coming up with things here. So ask yourself, the places that I spend time, are they the places that I'm likely to meet someone who has similar interests to me? Are they the places where I am able to meet, I stand a pretty good chance of meeting people that I'm attracted to? So just ask yourself that question. Have a think about, where do you spend most time? And if those are the places where you are able to meet or more likely to meet people that you may be attracted to. Okay, so they were the three things from the second half of the video that stood out to me. Just to recap on those three. First was, what's the role of a modern man? And it's those 3 Ps, according to Scott Galloway: protector, provider, procreator. Second bit was around our X factor, and that for 90% of men, our X factor can only be experienced in person. And the third bit was getting out there so that we can make sure that we're in the places where we're likely to, where we can show off our X factor, where we can meet people that we're attracted to, but to show them how we are in person, because that's what really counts. Okay, and now on the screen, you're going to see the video for part 1 that I did. So if you haven't watched that yet, click on that video and that will take you straight there now so that you can explore those first 3 things that stood out to me.